Hey folks, Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation, back with another weekly video. This is my live video series that kind of details a little bit of information around key habits and topics that you can use to make better use not only of your training time, but to kind of really focus things, right? Like in an ideal world, what we're doing is building a system where we can take things and we can, put them on autopilot so we can focus on the elements of your training, of your racing, of your preparation that really kind of get you set up to be successful. When I think about what it means to be successful as an endurance athlete, a huge piece of that is built on experience. And experience not in that the athlete who's more experienced has just learned all these wise lessons, but more so that the athlete with all this experience has really kind of made all the mistakes. And I'll put myself directly in that category. I've eaten the things, tried the things, jumped the things, raced the things, wore the things, and all of that experience comes out here in these lessons. And then also, of course, the experience of our community members as well. So happy to share that with you. This is an open live session on Facebook, so all questions are welcome. If you are participating in the chat today, you're welcome to put your comments inside the comment box because I'm here every Wednesday. I leave this chat at 12:30 and I head over to the community where I do a live members only chat as well on our voice channel for those of you who pay attention there. All right. So with that said, this week's 15 minutes with Coach Patrick is a little bit around food and food habits. And I think it's important to think a little bit about what we mean when we talk about like food and food habits, simply because there's some elements around success and success with particular parts of like our the food equation, if you will, that I think really come into play. And when we are endurance athletes and we're trying to dive into what it means to be successful, we've got to find the key areas where we're going to be successful, right? So a lot of times athletes look for speed or they'll look for performance gains, but sometimes it's the daily things that we can change that actually set us up to be more focused in those other areas and realize those changes. So today, what I want to do is go ahead and explain a little bit around 3 key habits that I think are super important when it comes to managing food and making it sort of a healthy and sustainable part of your life. Not that I'm going to give you access to some kind of tip or something you've never heard or seen before, but hopefully something constructive that we can work on as well. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about here, the food perspective, I got my notes over here on the side, is defining what I would call your go-to meals and snacks. And those go-to meals and snacks are super important simply because they're not only the food that you like to eat and that you enjoy enjoy on the consumption side, but also it's the function of kind of what that looks like for you in terms of success, from a food perspective. And I think that's really, really important. And so when I think about what that means for me as an endurance athlete, and I apologize, that little whiteboard action here not working so well. I'll restart this bad boy, see if this will help at all. Is that these go-to foods and snacks are essentially the things that you sort of eat every single day, or pretty close to that every single day. And so these are items that we can sort of capture and then reuse. So a quick example for that would be something like breakfast. Okay, so if you have a breakfast, typically as an endurance athlete, you've got like a morning training routine, or if you're training later in the day, then a pretty tight morning routine that involves getting up and getting going right away. So there's minimal time on the front end, either it's pre-session or pre-life or pre-work, and there's minimal time on the backside as well. So for me, I've got an hour and a half to train. The time from wake up to start training time is as compressed as possible, and the time from finishing training to getting on the rest of my day also compressed as possible, either to maximize sleep or to maximize my training time, or whatever that may be. And I think that's important to understand, that we're trying to maximize that element. And when we do that, when we say this is our priority, we're pushing things like nutrition to the back burner, right? And so in order to avoid having those decisions that have been pushed off to the back burner to become liabilities, we have to be a little bit intentional about them. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today from a nutrition perspective. So when we dive into and say, from a nutrition perspective, what we're really trying to do is define those go-to meals and snacks. That essentially means, for me, what that means, let me pull up my little notes here, see if this is going to work for us today. What that means for me is saying, okay, when I think about, dialing in my snacks and dialing in everything that I need. Let me see if I can get this going for you guys. Here we go. All right, awesome. I'm going to give you guys a new note here as well. Okay, Awesome. All right, awesome. So when I think about my go-to meals and stuff for the course of the day, I try and break my day down into sort of specific chunks. Some people are vertical. I'm more of kind of a linear guy, so I'm going to do it just like this, okay? And I'm going to say over the course of my day, if this is my time of the day when I'm awake, I've got discrete chunks. I've got my morning routine, then I've got sort of like my whole sort of work routine. I've got early evening and then night. So essentially, we've got 4 discrete chunks that we're trying to solve from a nutrition perspective. And in general, what I usually tell people is that we want to have elements of our schedule that are both fixed and elements of our schedule that are dynamic. Okay. And so from a fixed schedule, that's where this level 1, which is the sort of, repeatable snacks and items fall. And I would essentially say to you, and I propose to you, especially if you're struggling with sort of managing that nutrition and staying on the same track, is to figure out how much of this stuff that you can say is automatic. Right. So the breakfast time, super automatic. Like for me, it's a cup of coffee. Maybe I have like a little package of Fig Newtons if on the weekends before a big session. Otherwise, it's just the coffee and then I go right to my workout and so on. So that's pretty easy. And then I've got the second window. And the second window essentially covers like exit from workout and the main part of my day. So if I had to put time on this, I would say this is kind of like from say 5 until 8. This is from 8 until I would say 5. This is from 5 until 8. And that is 8 until we go to bed. All right, little bunch of Z's there. All right. So when we think about what it means for us to get through this block of the day, this period in here encompasses, it's got your work period, it's got lunch in here, it's got snacking, all of that stuff, right? So when we think about what that means for us to be successful in here, again, very straightforward, very simple. We've got some elements in here that are fixed and some elements that are dynamic. You may or may not be eating. Most of us, I think, are not out in the office. So most of you are probably in a situation where you're managing your own food at home, which makes it easier. So for me, I've got I'll break this chunk up in even more, and I'll say, okay, I've got like this sort of snack period that I start here. And this period here, I've got my lunch period, and then I probably have some kind of afternoon snack. I tend to be more of a grazer than like a fixed meal person. So for me, this is how I solve this period out. So when I think about what that means, my breakfast, this is automatic for me for sure. So this one is automatic. I'm going to put that there. My morning snack, also automatic. That's easy. I got a go-to piece of fruit, maybe some almonds, maybe got like a jar of almond butter. I can have an apple with some almond butter on it. Something simple, easy, portable. I can have it at my desk at work, non-perishable, easy to carry, whatever that may be. Same thing for the afternoon snack. That may vary a little bit depending on what the day looks like from a training perspective and what I have going on at night. If I'm trying to do more at night, I may have more of a calorically oriented piece there in the afternoon. So the flexibility piece here becomes the lunch. Like, how dynamic do you want to be with your lunch? I don't know about you. I tend to kind of cram everything into my day. I see I've got 12 hours and I will schedule 18 hours worth of stuff. So lunch ends up being more of an afterthought for me than something I proactively enjoy, unless I'm on like a date lunch, whether it's with my wife, who's sometimes working from home, or with a friend or neighbor who I'm like, hey, let's sit down. I will, budget time to sit down and we'll have lunch and hang out and get the social piece with it. Other than that, I'm generally working through lunch. So lunch tends to be pretty quick for me. So for me, that's pretty straightforward and also very repeatable. For you, it may not be that range. And then we've got this evening time frame here as well. Also easy to kind of fix and set that. For me, that's where I'm generally trying to say, how do I avoid eating the bad food? Because that's my trouble area. And I'm generally trying to put some protein in me. So I've got my protein shake that fits in that spot. So it's easy. So the real fun and the real piece of it here, that's this. And that's dinner. And I usually tell people, let those dinners, let's just use the D word, dynamic. Let those dinners be dynamic, be creative, come up with new foods, try new foods. That's the time if you want to, throw in extra carbohydrates, or you've got something that's like a little bit more of a cream-based dinner, like maybe there's a special sauce on the pasta. That's the time to do it. Get creative in that spot and enjoy it, because the rest of the day you've been really focused and almost rigid with your nutrition choices. But dinner is the space to kind of have fun and to play with your food, right? It's generally, for us here in my house, dinner is something we try and prepare together if possible, whether it's me and one of the kids. And then also we sit down to eat dinner as much as possible, not always, but as much as we possibly can. And so it becomes much more of a social activity as well. And you want dinner to be nice. I want to sit down and be like, this is good, not I sit down and be like, this is not bad, right? So for me, it's that dinner time. And I'm specifically talking about the week, but that's how things work out. So level 1, we're just trying to figure out what are your go-to meals and snacks. And in this case, we've identified the majority of your day. If we broke this day down into 4 parts, then we know 3 out of the 4 parts are pretty much automated, right? And know what those things are. So I could literally say, what are the things I like to eat in the morning? What are the things that I like to eat, at lunch? What are the things that I like to eat at dinner? I've got all those elements kind of written out. And so if I've got breakfast, my lunch and my snacks, and then my after meal snacks done. That's a list. It's like 10 items on the list, maybe some variety. I could put that list somewhere and I can go back to it, right? And then on the dinner side, that's where I, give myself some flexibility, try to be creative, look up recipes, whatever it may be or something like that. So level one is sort of defining what those elements are, okay, right? Number two food habit that I think is really, really important here is saying, okay, how do we go ahead and, figure out a way, how do we go out and figure out a way to take these elements, these 3 out of 4 elements that we know, how do we go and figure out what we're going to do here? How do I add a new page? How do I do that? We'll do number 2. There we go. Number 2. How do I figure out a way to kind of automate that? So step 2 here is that automation piece. And the automation is huge. Because if you're getting the same thing every time, or you're doing it, if you buy a package of 12 Fig Newtons, and we know you use it, 4 times a week, you're going to get 3 weeks out of that package of Fig Newtons, right? It's pretty easy. So once you have that list of food you want to do, you want to put that on autopilot. So ideally, it's either a list on your phone, like you can have a list of reminders that show up on your phone. You just keep them in there. So every time you run out of them, you just add it to the list. Or you can do it online. You could do maybe perhaps you've got Peapod or Whole Foods or some means. Hopefully you're financially and technologically well off enough to be able to just have a list that you can go into your phone and just say order those things that you want. And for me, I just have a reminder on my phone, every Wednesday at like noon, probably not now because I'm doing this session, but every Wednesday at noon, I'll go online and I'll just be like, check the fridge, check the pantry, need stuff, order, done. Food shows up, I'm done, and I'm on to the next one. So I'm never being faced with a time when I have to make poor food decisions, because I always have the food that I enjoy and the food that fits into my schedule. This isn't going to be for forever, but things that you can definitely dial in. Okay, so in the automation side, that's super important. Like I said, I mentioned before, you can do something like Peapod. You can do something like Whole Foods. I don't know what you have near you as well. Or you can just kind of budget it with budget it with travel time, to say like, hey, I'm coming home from work, I'm going to stop at the supermarket and grab it, especially if it's repeat items, you always know where to go. You can always figure out where to find them, and you can sort of, get really good at it and bust through the supermarket pretty darn fast as well, which is important. Okay. And then the third food tip here, as I kind of be super tight with my time. My apologies again for that late start. My third full tip time for you here is very simple. And this is something that I also enjoy because I think it really, it gets me off on the right foot. People say, hey, when you start your week, plan out your whole week, get everything set up. Man, I never get to do that. I'm still trying to catch up with last week before I even head into this week. I'm trying to get stuff done before people this week say, hey, you said you were going to do that last week. What happened to you? And I totally agree. What did happen to me? I have no idea. So instead, what I enjoy doing is this kind of kicks off that process of mentally thinking of the next week, which is any food preparation items that I want to make for that upcoming week. Now, as I mentioned, most 3 out of 4 meals windows in my time is generally dialed into a space where I'm repeating things, right? So which of the elements am I saying that I need to be more dynamic or batch processing on? So in our space, a lot of the batch stuff that I do, like on Sunday night, I'll grill a bunch of chicken. My daughter likes to have salad at school sometimes, so there'll be chicken available for the salad. I like salad as well. Chicken available for that, super easy. I'll also like hard-boiled eggs. I think 2 hard-boiled eggs, great snack. I'll have that as an option for me that I'll do from a preparation perspective. Sometimes we'll cook up stuff that we'll make later. So my kids love like pasta and meatballs. So I may make the meatballs on Sunday night. More casual, interactive. We're not really have anything going on Sunday evening, so we can work and talk and have an opportunity to connect with my daughters and make the food, and then we can put it in the freezer. So when it is time for dinner on like a busy Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, it's a quick, easy, sort of microwave reheat job with some fresh pasta, and we've got a yummy homemade dinner that's pretty easy to go. You probably have your own versions of what those are. And there's definitely some folks out there and websites out there that have you dialing into like all the things in terms of like food preparation or so on. But for me, I think about that batch preparation, and I start off small. I would just say pick like 1 or 2 meals and say, okay, what do I like to eat during the week? What could I get ahead of this week? If you want to be really creative, you could do some new stuff as well. And I think about seasonal food as well. That's also another option. So like, in the winter, sometimes my kids will want to have like lasagna. Lasagna is a great meal to make. You make a big tray of it, and then you can freeze it, and it's good for a while. And so that's a great one to go. If you're into making like chilies or soups, things like that are also really good. And they're nice additions to have it's sort of in the reservoir should something go wrong. Another thing that we have done in the past too is make my kids also will eat quiche sometimes, a super heavy dish, but you can be creative with what goes in a quiche, especially with all of your leftover vegetables and things like that. That's an easy win. And cheeses, you can kind of put it all in there. So make a quiche, and then you can freeze that. And again, you can put it in the oven, defrost the oven, or you can microwave it. And again, quick, easy, relatively homemade, nice dinner. So when you think about your week, and when you think about the nutrition side of things, don't just think about, people stress out, like I mentioned, around like what's the fat to carbohydrate to protein ratio, etc. Instead, let's start really macro with this and say, hey, what are the things that are good for me that I eat on a consistent basis? What do I do for my mornings? What do I do for my days? What do I do for my late nights? Those are 3 windows. We can eventually over time solve for those 3 windows, figure out what those things are. We can put them on autopilot as much as possible. Get that out of your head. You'll always have that food. We don't have to worry about it. You can be super consistent. And then we can give us flexibility by being rigid with those other areas. It gives opportunity to be flexible with the stuff that matters, which is, from my case, saying, hey, I want to prioritize this dinner window, do something fun and creative. Maybe we'll have pizza night and the kids get to make pizzas, and we'll put some stuff on there as well. So it's super fun. So that's just my tip for today around the food side of things. It's already past 12:30, so I kind of have to jump to the team, but I will give you a chance just real fast right now. If anybody here has comments, go right ahead. You can just type it there in the comment box on Facebook, and I will message to the team that I'm about to jump over and meet them in the audio app as well. Okay, so hold on a second here. Let's see if you got any questions for me. I'll put them right up on the screen. I'll hang out for a second just to see if you do. There we go. We use a really cool app called Geneva, and I get a chance to talk to the team. Every week, which is super fun. Here we go. All right, there we go. Let them know. All right. I don't see any comments from you guys as well. So I'm going to head over to that voice chat now, which for the team is in our chat application. I'll be in the voice channel. I'm going to put my headphones in. So I got those all dialed in so we can talk and connect. Always dive a little bit deeper with the team. If you want to get some of that team goodness, the training plans, the coaching, the resources. I just put up like 6 pages of resources this morning. Then go ahead. You can create your membership over at enduranceStation.us. Pick the level that you want to interact with, and we'll go from there. Always working with athletes, especially folks who are new. I just have a new athlete signed up today. I want to welcome Christine to the team, who's training for Lake Placid. Super excited to work with you, tackle that challenge. All right, so everyone else, thanks for tuning in. I promise next week I'll actually start at 12 noon. I'm so sorry. A little bit of trouble. Had to restart that iPad. I should have thought of it sooner. So thanks for your patience. Click around here on the Facebook page. You'll find other video recordings, other topics here as well. We do our best from an educational perspective to get the word out, and hope you enjoy it. If you like it, share it out. We'd appreciate it. All right. Have a great week, everyone. I'll talk to you soon. See you later.